Welcome back to the Dimestore Jukebox, where you'll hear stories of singers, songwriters, punks, poets, and more, treading their own paths in music. It's hard to come up with a band name. At least, that's what a lot of bands say. You gotta look for inspiration wherever it may strike. Sometimes, though, it just happens, which is what happened in this case. In this episode, I spoke with Olivia Riggio on the noisy streets of New Brunswick, who started her own band called, wait for it, Olive and the Pitz. Pitz with a Z. On top of that, they classify their music as reptile, mermaid, indie, folksy pop rock. This group currently only has one EP out, and I really wanted to talk about if they had anything else on the way. Hear what Olivia has to say about her band and more in this episode of the Dimestore Jukebox. Here with Olivia Riggio of Olive and the Pitz. How's it going?
Hey, I'm great. It's a beautiful day in New Brunswick here.
Good old New Brunswick, my old college stomping grounds.
Stomping grounds. What'd you do in these streets? Things you don't want to talk about?
I mean, I'd say most of it's appropriate, but depends. So, I'm not the subject here. I'm not even going to get into Olive and the Pitz territory. What was the first concert you ever went to?
Okay, it was the Indigo Girls. My parents took me in Central Park, and I remember going up and dancing, and the security guards let me in the little VIP area to dance because I was small and cute.
Wouldn't work so much nowadays, I'm guessing.
No, yeah. Now when I go to shows, I feel like people are like, oh, there's that noodly girl who's trying to crowd surf. I tried to crowd surf at a kava bar in Ithaca once at a funk show. There was some tequila that might have been consumed by some of us. Yeah, that didn't go over as well as 3-year-old me trying to dance at the Indigo Girls show in New York.
Do you have any guilty pleasure songs?
Oh, I have so many. What am I actually guilty about? Because a lot of it I'm sort of proud of. You know, Selena Gomez. Anything by Selena Gomez. Sorry Selena, you should be very proud of yourself. But I'm not super guilty, but you got a good sound, and I'm not afraid to admit it.
I mean, Wizards of Waverly Place. What's to be ashamed of?
No, it was a great show. It was incredible. Alex Russo was a heroine of her time, a wizarding master.
A witch?
A witching master, yeah. You know what? Yeah. What am I super guilty about, though, that I'm embarrassed about? It's oh, you know what? Here we go, it's coming. Anything by My Chemical Romance. My sister and I had a big MCR phase when we were younger, and I haven't not listened to it, in the car, and then deleted my Spotify history. That's definitely not something that happened.
Okay, now actually getting into your music, or at least your origins. When did you first pick up a guitar? When did you first go about teaching yourself?
So my dad is a musician. He, as a hobby, he grew up with music, and he and his brothers played music all growing up. And so I kind of grew up with it too. So I remember when I first really I always expressed interest, I think, in music, and I always liked to sing, and I sung in the little children's choir at church and in elementary school, and then all the times after that in middle school, high school, and even a little bit in college in choirs. So singing has always been a part of my life. Guitar, I picked up the guitar when I was in 4th grade with the first kind of serious intention of wanting to learn it. But I was in 4th grade, so it wasn't that serious. So my dad was, he was gonna teach me, and he taught me a few chords. I just didn't really practice, so it kind of just fizzled out then. I picked them up again when I was in 8th grade, and I sort of taught myself, and that's where it kind of grew from there. And I started writing songs. I wrote my first song that I was actually proud to share with people when I was, I think, about 16. And some of the songs on our EP that's out now, I also wrote when I was like 16, 17. So yeah, that's when I first started. I would say like high school was when I first started really getting involved and learning about like the DIY scene and all the opportunities that there were there.
You mentioned the DIY scene. What is it about this scene that you kind of like? Because there's something about the DIY scene that everyone is so proud of to be part of.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to start by saying that I do think, and it's not just the Jersey scene, I think it's a lot of places, they need work. They're not super diverse in a lot of places. There's not a lot of representation of women, but when there is, there's not even a diverse representation of women. We don't have a lot of performers of color or women of color or queer people. And I think so what we need to work on is making the scene more intersectional and more inclusive. Honestly, since when I started and now, I think we are doing a lot better. I used to be like the only woman on the bill, and now I'm definitely not. I also think DIY scenes reflect their area. So I come from North Jersey in Bergen County, which is a super white area. So in high school...
Yes.
You're from Bergen County too? Yes. Yeah. In high school, the scene that got me to love music as much as I do was not super diverse, but I do think that what I love about it and what I love about DIY scenes in general is that there's room for improvement because it really is what you make it. So even though I said there does need to be more representation, I do think that most of the people are inclusive and encouraging, and that's what I love about it. That's what got me started, was I could play alongside people who were just getting started, and I could play alongside bands that were touring and make connections with people and get to know people. And Kyle Cook, who is the guitarist in Olive and the Pitz, he produced our first EP. He is 3 years older than me, so when I was a freshman in high school, he was a senior, and he ran a venue out of his house called the Shame Shack in his basement. And, you know, it was like the only thing to do in suburbia, so we would go, he would have shows. That was just a super great environment to be.
Nothing to be shameful of.
No, it was definitely not anything to be shameful of. Bit of a misnomer there, but maybe a few things to be shameful of. People would get really sweaty. I don't know, that's kind of gross. One time I slipped on the floor, probably more than once. But yeah, I think scenes like that, the fact that people can create something out of nothing is what I love about DIY.
Looking into your songwriting now, what typically goes into your songwriting process? And how has it improved over time?
Oh, that's a good question. So I love writing. Writing is my favorite thing. I'm a journalist, so I like to, New Brunswick terrain. Let's get that nat sound.
Northeast Corridor represent.
Like I said, I'm a journalist when I'm not doing music, so I just love writing, and music has definitely been the place where I can write more creatively. I think when I first started writing, I just, words would pop into my brain, and I was like, well, I like to sing, and these words, I want to put them somewhere, so I'll put them into a song. And I think my writing has improved because I've discovered more music since I was 16. And I think, they say like when you're writing prose or poetry, you get better the more you read. They say if you want to be a good writer, read. And I think that's the same with lyrics. I think if you want to be a good writer, listen to a bunch of different types of music, pick out what you like from different genres that writers tend to do and from different artists, and make it your own. So I think that's how my writing has improved. I think I started out writing about personal experiences. I mean, I was a teenager, so a lot of those songs were about teenager things, and I tried to kind of tie them up in a nice little package that sounded poetic, but really it was just like, I went to prom weekend and whatever. So I think those situations were definitely more of me maturing, and I think you can see that. Now, we haven't released songs in a while, which is something that if my bandmates were here would be rolling their eyes at. I was finishing college and stuff, so that was a lot of things. But I will say the songs that I've been writing lately are, I think, more complex. Lyrically, I'm grappling with a lot of things right now that I wasn't when I was 16, and I think more complex things now that I wasn't when I was 16, so I think that is what makes my lyrics complex. I'm trying to write about, I guess, things are a bit more abstract and hopefully relatable to people. And I also think that Musically, I've been trying to make things more complex. I realized kind of early on that I like to play around with like time signatures and do things that you don't really expect, which learning my songs is not fun for people, like because sometimes they have no rhyme or reason to them. I know that makes it annoying, but I also think that that's something that I want to do more, so I'm trying to be less predictable in my music.
Which, I mean, I feel that's a great thing. It doesn't have to be in a typical cookie-cutter kind of formula when making music.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say my music is, like, advanced or cerebral, but...
Cerebral, nice.
But I like to take a pop song, something that's catchy, something that'll give you an earworm, and then, like, throw something that you don't expect into it, whether it be something subtle or something more like, oh, what are they doing here? But yeah, I consider myself an indie pop or indie rock artist. I'm not doing anything crazy. I'm not throwing in any jazz chords yet. But I think that there's ways to stand out. And so that's what I'm trying to do. In my writing process, people ask me that all the time. They're like, do you write the music first or the lyrics first? I think it varies. Things just come into my head all the time, which can be both a blessing and a curse, but things come into my head. If I like how it sounds, I'm talking more about words, then I will write it down on my phone or on a piece of paper in my computer, and I'll see how far I go with it. Sometimes it'll just be a line, but then maybe a month later I'll think of something else and be like, oh, I could fit them together. Some days then I'll sit down and be like, all right, Olivia, you're writing a song. So I'll look into my archives and I will find that blurb or that stanza, and I'll be like, all right, you're taking this and you're expanding it. And I'll do that. So the writing process is kind of quick from there. So overall, the band, I'll write the chords and the lyrics, and everybody else writes their own parts. So Kyle is incredible at writing leads that just kind of make the song really catchy and fun. Ross Greenberg, our bassist, is super creative, and he comes up with bass lines that you just wouldn't expect, but that sound really adorable. He's a cute little guy. Shout out to Ross. And Nick Iacobelli is our drummer, and he's a multi-instrumentalist. I mean, I everyone pretty much except for me is, unless you consider voice and guitar 2 instruments. Nick is an incredible drummer, and we'll take the song to him and he will work his magic on it and make it so textured.
I want to look at the Pitz now. How did you meet your fellow Pitz?
So we all went to the same high school, Indian Hills in Oakland, New Jersey. Shout out to the alma mater. Again, I'm kidding. I mean, it was fine. It was a fun experience because I met my bandmates. Like I said, Kyle was a senior when I was a freshman, so I met him vaguely my freshman year, but I really got to know him because he was friends with other people I was friends with, and he had the Shame Shack, that indie venue, at his house. So that's how I got to know Kyle. Ross is in my grade, and we traveled in similar circles, but we really became friends senior year. And Nick is a year younger than Ross and I, so he was involved in band and everything. So, and like we had coffee houses at our school every month, so Nick would play those. So from doing all of that stuff, that's how we got to know each other, and everybody loved Nick. Like, you can't not love Nick. I think it's better that my bandmates aren't here, because I think I would be like shitting on them if they were, but I'm saying nice things about them now. But yeah, so that's how we got to know each other. We all came close, and now we're best friends.
I have to ask this quickly because I'm about to delve into a couple songs. The name Olive in the Pitz, who thought of that? Very cute and clever, by the way.
Thank you. Believe it or not, I thought of that, but I'm not going to say I'm good at thinking of band names at all. That was really a fluke. I remember it was after my freshman year of college, I kind of contacted everyone and was like, I want to make a band and I want you guys to be in it. Once we were all home, we met at Ross's house, and we were in his kitchen. We were trying to come up with band names, and they were all terrible, all awful, absolutely terrible. We were going through his spice cabinet, and we were like, what about cumin? What were some other ones? Birks and socks. I don't even wear Birks, like Birkenstocks, like when you wear them with socks. That's not our aesthetic at all. I don't think any of us wear that, so that was a bad idea.
This is a bad joke on my end. I'm just trying to play with stuff in the spice cabinet. I'm thinking Spice Girls. Cumin to your town.
Oh, that's good.
It's bad.
We were thinking of, like coming. I can say that on this podcast, right? We're punk. We were making more sexual innuendos with it, so that was pretty pure.
Listen, I'm not sponsored yet, so.
Good. So yeah, get someone to sponsor you that lets you make sexual jokes. Oh God, my mom's not gonna want to listen to this. Sorry, Mom, love you. So yeah, we had some really, really bad ones. And then I don't know how it came about. I really like eating olives. I know it didn't come from the spice cabinet or the refrigerator though. But my friends growing up called me Olive. And I didn't think I wanted an and the name because I wanted to be a band. But it was too clever to pass up, and I think it works well for us. I'm not like tooting my own horn here. I have no idea how I came up with that name. And then the Z is because I think the S looks weird.
So the first track in your EP Landlocked is East Bumblefuck. While I wouldn't use the word anthem with it, it's a song that feels very millennial to me. Actually captures the mindset of a millennial crowd with lyrics like, mediocrity eats away at me, last week I was special, this week I'm lame, so on and so forth. So let's talk about that.
Unfortunate, isn't it? I've screeched to a halt. My tires are flat, bumping on the asphalt. Middle of nowhere, no lights glowing over me. Thick opaque fog is all that I see. Mediocrity eats away at me. Last week I was special, this week I am lame. Haunting and cold, every day is the same. Scribbling in notebooks, halogen lights. Cinder block walls, fast arriving nights, petty fights. No one is right. And all I could ever want is stare back at me. It's stupid, hard luck when I speak mercilessly. Sneering and tearing, I'm fearing what's on the tip of my own tongue. And my heart may beat in perfect time as long as this life support breathes for these weak lungs of mine. It's nothing impressive, in fact it's a bore. Every sound that I make's like something I've heard before. And all I could ever want is stare back at me. It's stupid, hard luck when I speak mercilessly. Sneering and jeering, I'm fearing what's on the tip of my own tongue. I'm driving around to East Bumblefuck.
Bumblefuck was the song I actually, when I wrote it, I was like, I need to play this with a band. I'm going to start a band. I wrote it my freshman year of college, sitting in a dorm room. And the thing was, and I think it was something that a lot of young people could relate to, like you said, like it is kind of a millennial song, because I felt like I was on the brink of something. I felt like I had all this potential, but I was really scared to kind of get started on that path. I mean, and it wasn't just with music, it was with everything, you know, declaring my major, deciding just who I was going to be. I felt like I was on the brink of something great, but I was just so scared to take those risks and to kind of start that journey. And I definitely deal with a lot of feeling inadequate and comparing myself to other people. And like the line, last week I was special, this week I'm lame. I don't love that I use the word lame in that, just a side note, because it's a little bit ableist, but I didn't really know that at the time, but it rhymes with same, so I haven't changed it. But I think that my self-esteem was kind of based on what other people thought of me. So if I did something well, and if I, you know, even if I played an open mic or a show well, and everyone was like, oh my God, you're so amazing, I would feel great. I would feel on top of the world for like a week. And then, you know, that feeling would pass, and I would be sitting alone in my room, and I'd be listening to other artists and being like, why am I not like that? You know, why am I not doing things well enough? So that kind of reflects the lack of consistency in how I felt about myself at the time, and I still struggle with that, but I'm definitely trying to create more of an equilibrium for myself where I have my own self-esteem and I have my own confidence and I don't rely on other people's validation. But isn't that what we're all doing? Like, everybody's trying to do that.
Everyone's trying to do that, and I find it's an interesting song while I'm catching these things, because it's relatable to everyone, as you just said. And in an age of social media, you're always comparing yourself to someone.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I think it's our nature to compare ourselves to people. I mean, I'm also going to say I think women are socialized to do it even more. And I think that we're socialized to feel inadequate even more. Not to say that men don't go through that, but I definitely think that that's the thing. And I think people like to pit people against each other on social media and stuff like that. I think it's a great tool, but it can also be toxic. It's something that I think older generations want to demonize completely, and they're like, oh, you kids and your Instagram. But I also think that there is some truth to it, and you have to practice a certain amount of restraint and just bringing yourself back to yourself and back to reality and being like, all right, this person might have posted a really great picture, but, you know, I'm doing cool things too. And we all struggle, and we don't always post about that because that's annoying. No one wants to hear about that. So, yeah.
I could go on about this for a while because it is something I find fascinating, just how culture is turning towards that kind of thing, but just going to jump ahead now and let's see if I could get this song title right. I was trying to practice it before.
Buildings are wrong.
Okay, yeah, another song that caught my attention was, did you say Buildings Roman?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yes, I got it! So, it's a piece compared to East Bumblefuck that feels very lively. So what story were you trying to tell in this song?
So Buildings Roman, that's a pretentious name. It is the genre of book where it's a coming of age. So if you've read like Catcher in the Rye, Jane Eyre, all those freshman year high school curriculum books, that's what a Buildings Roman is. So
Throwback.
yeah. So that song is kind of about just that, kind of transitioning, kind of losing your innocence. And this is an example of one of the songs that to me now sounds a little bit juvenile because it's literally about realizing that maybe I'm not a child anymore. I wrote it my senior year of high school, and I made a joke about prom weekend before, and that's what inspired a lot of this song. Like, you have a white daisy, and you put it in a shot glass. That actually happened. Stuff like that. I mean, very, very covertly, I'm trying to kind of talk about discovering my sexuality and that kind of stuff. Just realizing that I'm not a kid anymore. And so that's what that song's about. But I wanted to make it fun because it wasn't necessarily me mourning my loss of innocence. It was me, I think, celebrating it and sort of laughing at it and enjoying it.
While you haven't recorded anything in a while, how often do you and the Pitz go out and play shows?
We're trying to do it more often now. What was kind of making it difficult in the past was we were all in college, and then Kyle graduated, but he works in New York City, and so we were all at different schools. We were all hundreds of miles away from each other, so we only really played during breaks and during summer. And the occasional, Ross went to Penn State, so we would play the occasional show in State College. I went to Ithaca, so we'd play the occasional show in Ithaca. But now that we're home, we're trying to play often. We played some shows at the beginning of the summer. We don't have anything booked right now because we're trying to get together every week and write and practice, because we joke around. We've been a band for 3 years, but we've done the equivalent of probably 1 year's worth of work as a band. So we definitely want to get more music out there, and before we play more shows, definitely have like a newer set for everybody to listen to, because we have some really amazing friends that have come to so many of our shows and probably are sick of hearing all the same songs, but they're too nice to say it.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just trying to run through what I saw on the band's social media. You guys did a show with Jeff Rosenstock?
Yes, that was the best day of my life. We did a show with Jeff Rosenstock in State College, PA. It was the most incredible day of my life. Jeff Rosenstock he and his band came out of the green room when we were playing and watched us. And then afterwards, they all complimented us. And then they played their set and they dedicated one of their songs to us. And I screamed and everybody looked at me, and it was really, really, really embarrassing.
I don't blame you for screaming, because we're talking DIY before, and Jeff Rosenstock is such a DIY hero in the indie music realm, I feel.
Yeah, he's definitely kind of the pinnacle of, when I was introduced to his music, it was another one Ross and Kyle introduced me to, and I wish I had gotten into it sooner. But yeah, he's a legend. I mean, from Arrogant Sons of Bitches to Bomb the Music Industry to now his Jeff Rosenstock stuff. It's just like...
Don't forget Antarctigo Vespucci with Chris Farron.
Yeah, Antarctigo Vespucci. Chris Farron is a hoot. I don't understand his social media presence, but I love it.
I've met him a couple times, and he's a great guy.
I saw him open up for Laura Stevenson one time in Rochester, and it was incredible. Laura Stevenson is she's a huge inspiration of mine. She's my favorite musician ever. And, she was in Bomb the Music Industry. So that's kind of how I also found out about Jeff Rosenstock. And that whole scene right there, that little cluster of people, it's so cool that they do that. And I want to do that, So, yeah, he's the king. And it was an incredible experience to open up for him. That was, I think, 2 years ago already. So, we haven't done anything that cool since, but we're still, I'm still riding on that high 2 years later. But hey, Jeff, if you're listening and you need an opener, we got you.
Gonna start to kind of wind down. What are you listening to right now? Are there any new artists you want to talk about, give a shout out to? And if there's no one new, just anything in general you're listening to?
New artists? New to me, maybe, but probably not new. As far as pop artists, I think Billie Eilish is an incredible young woman, and I started listening to her a couple months ago, and her music is so well produced and so new and interesting, and anybody who doesn't like her is wrong. I'm just gonna say it.
Okay, listen, I'm still trying to get used to her, so don't put me in any
wrong.
kind of box yet.
No, yeah, I know. I think she's only 17, and I think she's so smart and wise beyond her years. So I am a fan of her. New music, I've been listening to Ravina. She is an R&B singer, and she's incredible. When I'm trying to feel sexy, I listen to her. Sometimes that's just like in the car. I don't really have too much time in my life to feel sexy. But who else? Samia. I saw Samia is the name of the front woman of that band, but I saw her and her band play in Syracuse a couple months ago. She opened for Hippocampus, and she's incredible. She just came out with a new single. I love them, and she's just like the most bold, like unabashed performer I've ever seen, and with this incredible like big voice, and she is just unashamed of who she is, and a lot of her songs talk about that, and they talk about real issues. She has a song called Someone Tell the Boys, and the lyrics are someone tell the boys they're not important anymore, and it's all about just trying to find your place as a girl in a scene full of boys. So she's incredible. Who else? Laura Stevenson's new album, which came out I think 2 months ago, is super raw and super beautiful. So that's some new music I've been into. And there's probably a lot more that I'm forgetting, but those are the ones that are off the top of my head. I'll shout out. But it would really be an honor if they would shout me out.
Maybe eventually, I'll get them on the podcast one day. Who knows?
Get them on the podcast. Get Billie Eilish on the podcast.
That one is definitely going to be a stretch, but we'll see if my people, a.k.a. just me, can work it out. So, serious question. I mentioned before I was on your social media, and based on some of the posts I saw, you guys seem to have a very meme-y sense of humor. So, what's a meme out there that best describes you?
Our band or just me?
Just you.
Oh, God.
You could give an answer for both.
A meme? You're hitting me with these good questions that I've never been asked by anyone in my life before.
This is why people should listen to the Dimestore Jukebox.
So that you're prepared when he asks you them. Let's see. A meme. I could maybe a vine that describes me. I consider vines a type of meme.
We'll roll with it.
Crap, I don't... Could I just be like all the memes and all the vines? Let's see.
Right now I'm trying to think of a meme that would just be the meme that sums up all memes, but I'm struggling with that myself.
Oh, you know what? You know what meme that made me laugh lately? And I guess it describes me because I got cats. It's a picture of a cat standing on its hind legs, walking into a room, and with the caption, "When I try to sleep past 7:30 a.m., and it says, "Wake the fuck up, you thumb-having ass bitch." I don't know why, but I think that describes me. And probably my band as a whole, because we are rude to each other.
Where can people find the music of Olive and the Pitz?
You can find us on Bandcamp, on SoundCloud, on YouTube, on, I believe, iTunes. I know for sure Spotify, and I believe Amazon Music too. So yeah, check us out.
Anything else you want to say to anyone listening to the Dimestore Jukebox right now?
I want to say thanks for listening. I want to say thanks for having me. And I don't know you all, but I love you. Hopefully. I don't know if that's true. You might all be assholes. I want to say thank you. And I also want to say that you can do anything that you want to do, that you set your mind to. And if you don't see somebody doing something that you want to do, go and be the one to do it. I also... train!
Thanks, Amtrak.
I also want to say, unrelated, well, I guess related, I want to say Black Lives Matter, Black trans lives matter, immigrant lives matter, and we really need to stand up for what's going on in this country right now and around the world. And if you're not fighting against power, you're standing on the side of the oppressor. That's my little soapbox rant, but just know that you are loved.
Good times back on the streets of New Brunswick, and good times interviewing another kick-ass Jersey artist. Not only did she bring up interesting points on how the DIY scene changed and how it should continue to progress, but Olivia simply brought a lot of fun energy to the table in this interview. I'm sure her and her bandmates Kyle, Ross, and Nick bring that same energy to the stage as well. Hopefully I get to see them all rocking out soon enough. Be sure to follow Olive and the Pitz to stay up to date with what they're up to. If you liked what you heard in this episode, be sure to like and follow the Dimestore Jukebox as well, on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook so you can stay updated with what's going on with the show. More importantly, be sure to subscribe to the Dimestore Jukebox wherever you listen to podcasts to make sure you don't miss an episode. And also rate and review the podcast on Apple Podcasts. It makes a difference, and your support is appreciated. Also check out the DimesteoreJukebox.com as well. The Dimestore Jukebox is a great destination to discover new music. Make sure you check out my other podcast, No Care Off Air, where I step away from the music scene and talk to my friend and co-host Christian about the whatevers in life over drinks. I'd like to thank Olivia Riggio for being part of the podcast and for giving me permission to use her music to promote Olive and the Pitz. Come back around for the next episode of the Dimestore Jukebox as I interview Guy Battaglia of Idle Wave. Until then, I'm Keith Haas, and this was the Dimestore Jukebox.